How you doing?
I'm right. It's a little groggy, but
My weekend was busy around the house. Just like I'm doing demo in a room, and I converted my wife's bike into an e-bike.
what's an e-bike? Like electrical bike?
Yeah, so you swap out one of the wheels with a new wheel that has a motor in the hub,
hmm
and then battery and controllers and brakes and all that kind of stuff.
So
So
you mount the battery pack. What do they look like? Like a big rectangular thing, and you mount it in the inside of the frame.
it mounts in the frame, like right where the water bottle holder usually goes.
hmm
So they've got the system pretty well figured out. And then there's like a controller you got to find a place for that does all the brains behind it. And then you've got like a little screen that you put on the handlebars so you can see how fast you're going and your mileage and what level of output you want to be using. And then like another like a switch. So there's a bunch of little moving pieces, and then you got to figure out what to do with all the wires and make it look good. And
So you buy those off of like I don't know Amazon with the it's like a whole kit, right? It comes with instructions and everything.
yeah, so the instructions suck, but they're fine.
Define
As is everything.
define suck like IKEA level suck or less.
No, like worse, right? Because there's just stuff that's just wrong, right? Like it's not that they just omitted stuff. They of course omit stuff, but then there's stuff that's just wrong. And then they're like, just if you want to see the wiring, go to our website and watch the video. And like there's no video. Like all the videos that they have on their website are by other people who have done e-bike conversions. They're not even by them. So
Well, that's a great example of taking advantage of the community.
totally. Totally. Yeah. They just embed the video that they think is the best at that time on their site, and then they just leave it at that. They never even go look for a better video later or anything.
Trying to save some time, not recreate the resources that already exist, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not the architectural approach. Like architects, I feel like will just take on everything. You got to own it all.
Oh, we have to own the font, like literally the color of the font that matters. So it's like, yeah, you can't use somebody else's thing. That just drove me nuts. For the few years that I did work in the architecture, it was just ridiculous. Like somebody's done this already. Yeah, I want different font. Okay, great. But speaking of instructions, IKEA, I gotta take back the IKEA comments because IKEA instructions are not that bad when you compare them to
No, they're
something
not.
like a Target instructions. Because I was putting together,
Oh, really?
I was putting together a crib for my baby girl, and those Target level instructions are just horrible. They were really, really bad. And I don't know what it is. IKEA actually has this down. They do have it down. I never complain about IKEA.
Hi there. I'm Evan Troxel. Welcome to my podcast about how technology is changing the architectural profession. Konrad Sobon, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
And so you're in Chicago. I thought you were in New York, but you're in Chicago, and I'm in Southern California. And here we are with power of the internet holding us all together during this time. How you been doing?
Staying isolated.
Staying isolated.
Well,
So yeah, you've got a newish baby.
it's a 6-month-old baby girl we've had back in December. And luckily for everyone, without even knowing it, escaped the epicenter of the COVID-19 pandemic
Jeez.
out of New York. So we left in
Just in
yeah,
time.
just in time, January. So it wasn't really on anyone's radar that we're escaping
Right.
a COVID-laden city. But it was
Jeez.
we were like my wife and I were actually talking about it right before we left because she was getting on the plane and I was gonna drive because I had a bunch of books that I needed to haul over. But, she was gonna get on the plane, and out of those two, which is a weird thing to say probably right now, is like COVID. Like she mentioned it, it was like this. There's this weird flu that came over from China, and everyone's talking about it, or at least little people, like a few people are talking about it on the news. And then she was actually more worried about flu, and I was like, yeah, flu's gonna
Yeah.
get us. Like kids probably like, because my daughter was like 5 weeks old, and we're like, there's like she doesn't have any like immunity to flu. She hasn't
Right.
taken any of the
Right.
shots they're supposed to take yet. So we're worried about that, but everything worked out pretty well.
Well, congrats on the family there. That's awesome, and I'm glad everybody's healthy. That's good. My kids are my youngest is 14, and then I have 15 and a 16 and an 18. So they're on the trajectory out. I hope.
you, you never know with that one.
You don't. You really don't.
I had a
So
big family when growing up because I have four other siblings, and I will tell you, you don't know because my sister's still with my parents.
yeah,
And
yeah. My brother is kind of like that. It's a weird story, but yeah. I mean, I know what you mean. You just never know. And it's interesting. I heard a stat the other day that was something like the highest percentage ever of people under 30 still living single and with their parents than ever before. So, and that has nothing to do with COVID, right?
well,
Like
that has everything to
that's
do
a different
with
thing.
school loans, right?
School loans and yeah, changing mentality around marriage and dating and how all that happens. And there's a lot going into that, but it's
Well, I mean,
interesting for sure.
not to be cynical about that, and I want to rain on my sister for still living with my parents, but I did after I graduated move back to my parents, and this had 100% everything to do with the fact that school's are just so freaking expensive.
Yeah, finances. Yeah.
I took on a bunch of loans coming out of the architectural school, and
Hmm.
literally had no clue what I was getting myself in terms of your potential for income is coming out of as as ALC level one joining an architectural company here in the city. And I was actually I was living in Chicago. I went to school over here
Hmm.
in Chicago as well. So yeah, I had no clue. I came out and I had about it was like $80,000 plus in school loans, and only because I was actually trying to pay as much as I could while I was at school and I was working throughout. So it wasn't that bad. My friends had 150 and upwards of school loans. So that
Wow.
hits you. And I wasn't being an immigrant, first generation immigrant. I got to US when I was 17. My parents didn't know any better, so there was nobody really in the household that was going to be able to tell me what I'm getting myself into. And
Uh-huh.
I was the first one going through college in my family within my siblings, so I was kind of trailblazing the higher education trail.
You figured it all out, right?
Yeah, well, it wasn't the best thing that I've done to myself, but there was a few things that I learned from it. Yeah, private loans in US are a thing, and you
Oh, wow.
definitely want to stay away from those if you can. So that's why I tell my
There you
sister.
go.
And that's probably the reason why she's been living with my parents for so long, because she actually took the different route, which was pay for the school as you go, as opposed to what I did, finish as soon as you can, take on the loans.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of different ways of going about this, but
So where'd you go to school?
I studied architecture at IIT in Chicago.
Okay. Cool. I asked because I had Randy Deutsch on the podcast earlier too, and he teaches at the Champaign Urbana
Yeah.
school there. So there's two schools that are both under IIT, correct?
No, no, no. So that he teaches at Urbana-Champaign. That's U of I, University of Illinois.
Oh,
It's a
okay. Gotcha.
different school. There's another one. There's actually a couple of schools in the city that I was contemplating or not contemplating. It's a weird thing that I even ended up at IIT. Like, I mean, to tell you the story, when I graduated from high school, I went to a local college, Northeastern, I think that was called, taking my general
Hmm.
education classes. I had no clue, like literally had no clue how colleges work here. Colleges in Poland work totally different. Like I might have a better idea how that worked back in Poland. I had no idea what I was doing over here. So I went to college and I figured this is it. This is what you do. You go to college, right? I had no idea that there's like private colleges, public colleges, state colleges, city colleges. I mean, the spectrum is just so big, and I was bored out of my mind over there. And one of my teachers pulled me aside, and I appreciate my teacher. I probably appreciate her for the rest of my life because she did me a huge favor. She pulled me aside one day into her office, and she went like, "Conrad, you're bored out of your mind. What do you want to do in life?" And at the time, stupid me at age, I don't know. I don't know if I was that stupid per se in architecture in the retrospect.
This is the cynic.
This is
Yeah.
the cynical me. It worked out for me, but if I had to do this again, I don't know if I'd go for it again. But stupid me said I was working construction at the time because that's like being Polish in Chicago when you come in here, that's like one of the jobs that you're gonna get because most of the people that I know work construction. So I was working construction, and she pulled me aside and she's like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I want to be an architect," because I was on construction sites all day, every day. So she's like, "Go to IIT," and that was it. That's how I went to
That was
IIT.
easy.
I She
Wow.
basically filled out the paperwork for me. That's how it went.
I was in high school as well, doing a lot of like architectural drafting courses. It was always my favorite thing to do, and I did that for 4 years there. And when I applied to a bunch of different colleges, and like you, not really knowing the difference between in-state, out-of-state, then there's state schools, community colleges, and I only got accepted to one. And so that made it easy, right? It was just like, it was the one right here. It was Cal Poly Pomona. And turns out like that was perfect for me. It was a state school. It was very inexpensive, pay as you go, like you're talking about. Walked out of there with no loans at all, lived at home the whole time. And I think I just got kind of lucky. And unlike you, if I had the chance to do it all over again, I probably would, because I really, it's funny, like the first 2 years were terrible, I felt like, but the last three were great. It finally clicked for me at some point there, and I really, really got into it. But the whole, design school thing was perfect for me. And I went into school thinking it was going to be something so different than it actually was. I'm really glad it turned out to be what it was. And now, like our profession, I see how much our profession suffers because schools focus so much on design. But, that's another topic for another day, most likely.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I probably had a completely different experience just because I was that first generation immigrant. And I mean, just to give you an idea, my parents didn't speak any English at all, right? So you go into like register for high school, right? You go to the nearest high school in your district, and people signing you up for that high school, it's like that one person that worked in the administrative office. I will remember her forever too, because
Yeah.
she's the one that kind of that took on the responsibility of being the point of contact for all of those immigrant kids that got funneled into the
Yeah.
school system here in America, right? And
Mhm.
I won't remember her for all the good reasons, because she was pretty bad at her job, I'll tell you that much, right? Because there was no explanation or guidance whatsoever of like how this whole system works. And some of these kids,
Right.
some of my colleagues coming out of Poland, if you cared about education, she wasn't the person to go to kind of find out what do you need to do to go ahead to get to a good school. Nobody never told us about after school programs. Nobody ever told us about, AP classes, college accredited classes. No one's never talked to any one of us about any of these
Right.
things. So then you kind of, that's what I'm saying. It's a bit of a miracle that any one of us comes out of that, public school system and has been able to go to a college, get an education, and kind of, not end up working construction, which, there's nothing wrong with that, but not everyone wanted to do that. And I don't know, schools just, they should probably pay better attention to that, because that one person really has a huge impact on a lot of people's lives. So I was kind of disappointed with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of disconnection there for sure. I saw that even, you were talking about those things. I wasn't exposed to those things either. And if your parents aren't that person, and then there's like no line of defense there, right?
Yeah,
Because nobody even knows what to ask.
yeah. Well,
So, and they're not going to offer if you're not asking, they're not
yeah,
offering.
yeah. Well, like we had, I mean, so there's like these are public schools, so like there was a cultural adjustment for all of us, anyways. The language was an issue. Like I didn't speak much English at all either.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that kind of put me on the right track was always sports. Like if there's anything that
Mm.
gets me going, that gets me excited, has always been basketball. So
Okay.
I've never had any trouble. I never thought that I had any trouble adjusting to living in America. Was because of the basketball. I just kind of picked up the ball, and we lived across the park, so I just pick up the ball and go play basketball. Didn't speak a lick of English, but it didn't matter. Like on the basketball court, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. So that was kind of like the place that I went to, and so we had all the practices after school. We had conditioning camps and all that. So I kind of stayed busy and had a chance to interact with American kids and learn the language a little bit faster than some of my colleagues, right? So that was the thing that kind of saved me and put me on the right path. But
Mm.
everybody else didn't, like not everyone played basketball. There was like two of us, two Polish kids on the basketball team. So that was it. It was tough.
So speaking of the path, like you're on this path, right?
Yeah.
You said the right path even. I wonder, like, what do you think about the path that you've chosen to take in this profession? Because it's funny, I went to an AU, I don't know, kind of a presentation, kind of a roundtable thing last year. And it was with people who went into software development, and they called it the dark side, which I thought was hilarious, right? How come you went to the dark side? And so, talking about your path and architecture school and where this has all led you, and now you're working with BIM Beats and Bad Monkeys, and you've got your other stuff that you've been developing forever for Revit. So, forever, the last, I don't know how many years, but in architectural terms, coding terms, it seems like a long time. So how did you get on this path? Did you, like you said, you got out of college and you're going to go work at an architecture firm. Like, how did you eventually make it into tech?
I think it was always meant to be. So here's the reason I mentioned my college teacher that kind of put me on this path. The person that asked me the question, like, what do you want to do in life? And I answered architecture. And the reason this is funny and ironical for me is because if you asked me that same question a year ago or 2 years ago when I was still back in Poland, my answer would have been completely different just because my interests were completely different. At the time, working construction, architecture was the center of my life. Like, this is what I was doing all the time. Before, the center of my life has always been computers. Like, that's what my friends used to do. That's who I knew, that's who I hang out with. And if I stayed in Poland, I probably would have gone into computer science. So coming out of architectural school, I applied for design jobs, and it's, I don't know, I'm probably one of these people who's like, by the time I realized that architecture wasn't what I hoped or thought it would be, it was too late. I was too pragmatic to just drop out of my third year when I already put down like $150,000 towards my education.
You've got all those sunk costs, man. You got to stick it out.
I knew
now.
about sunk costs before I even read about it. It was too late.
You're like, I've lived that.
So I was gonna finish. I wasn't gonna stop halfway through and drop out. So I was gonna finish that. I powered through, but all the way throughout, computers has always kind of been the thing that I did. And IIT's been old school. IIT teachers have taught us how to draft by hand. They prioritize design, sketching, kind of artistic side of architecture more than they did technology side of architecture. And that has never, it was a struggle for me throughout the years because I wanted to specialize. I wanted to work with computers. I took graphics courses, rendering courses, Revit courses even when I was at school. Anything that had anything to do with programming. Like I took programming for AutoCAD. Nobody used AutoCAD at that time anymore, probably, because the whole industry was transitioning to Revit at that time, and I was programming in CAD because nothing else was offered at our school at the time. So this was always meant to happen, that I would go eventually into programming. But the thing really that kind of put me onto it was Mustafa, I guess. That's the right answer. Mustafa is the co-founder and creator of the Ladybug tools. He's been my first mentor. So Mustafa used to live in Chicago as well, back in the days when he worked for Smithco. And I've heard about him from one of the Grasshopper forums. And when I decided I wanted to, pick up Grasshopper, pick up some visual programming tools, I started doing tutorials and learning on that kind of, nights and weekends, the usual path for all the computational designers out there. Mustafa's been the person that kind of gave me tips and pointers, tell me which language to learn. Python was the choice at the time. And, that was, ever since then, we've been pretty good friends.
Did he know he was your mentor at the time? Or was you just responding to forum posts or something?
At the time when I was still in Chicago, before I moved to New York, like at the time when I was still in Chicago, I think he was just responding to forum posts, and it was just, a really good overall, all-around guy, just trying to be helpful and all that. Later on, we realized we have a common friend. A friend of mine that worked at Canon with me was also a good friend of Mustafa. So kind of the three of us, once we realized that, then kind of the relationship changed a little bit, and we became a little bit closer friends. And by the time I moved to New York, we're just, regularly hanging out, talking about all these things, having conversations of like, open source. Mustafa is a big open source guy. So he was the one that gave me a book that kind of changed the outlook on the open source for me, that made it clear that we're not doing this for nothing.
Mm.
And what I mean by not doing this for nothing, it's more like, just because he was helping me off of forums, I wanted to give back. Like I had my, even when I was at school, I started a blog called Archilab. So I've been
Yep.
blogging for a long, long time, but I always felt that I wasn't sure if what I'm doing with the blog is, is it worth my time? Like, is anyone actually
Hmm.
reading this? Because this was back in the days when, like, I was hosting this whole thing on my own server. The WordPress wasn't even on my radar, and I didn't really
Yeah.
have any statistics, or I didn't know what, like, who is anyone reading this. And Mustafa kind of squared me up and gave me a book by, I believe the name is Adam Grant, maybe, Give and Take. And that kind of made everything click for me. That made it, the basic message of the whole book is there's three kinds of people: givers, takers, and matchers. And be a giver. That was really the message. And
Hmm.
ever since then, it kind of made sense. Writing the blog posts, posting stuff for free, opening up, doing everything, or as much as I could, open source. It just changed the whole outlook on the AC industry. So it's kind of started with Mustafa showing me how to do some coding, and then open sourcing it, and why we open sourcing it, why we're trying to make it available for everyone. Yeah, it just all kind of started to make sense.
And so it really truly sounds like it is the dark side.
I don't know.
A bunch of
What is it?
givers.
Is it a dark? Well, it's only the dark side is because we trying to. Yeah, like it is the dark side because we're a bunch of givers. We're the guys that just like throw this stuff up on the internet. It's like
Yeah.
I've had these conversations with some of the partners, the companies that I work at, where they kind of learned that we've been open sourcing all of these tools that I was working. Like when I was, like, I'm gonna name names if I'm gonna name names. We're at Grimshow, and I was writing all these Dynamo packages and Grasshopper packages and all that, and we're just throwing it out and open sourcing it. And the funny thing is like no one even knows that people within the company are doing these things. Like they don't know
Right.
until something blows up, or they find out from somebody else that all of a sudden, like, people that work for you are engaged in these kind of things.
Yep. Yep.
So they would find out that like that I've been working on open source packages and posting them up, and all of a sudden companies want to take advantage of like the marketing value that has all of a sudden, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
that's the only reason this is a dark side, because it's not like it's all perfectly fine and okay and hunky dory if you're working on things on your own time, nights and weekends. But the minute you're trying to give it out and there's no, like, direct benefit, so to speak, back towards the company, people all of a sudden get agitated, and it's like, wow, why are you doing this? This is wrong. You're not supposed to share this. Our competitors might have this. And the thing that kind of
You're
like,
like, yep, they're building it
yeah,
too.
yeah, like the thing that triggered some of the people over there was, and I'm not raining on anyone in particular. It's just that, like my friends in other places, other companies had similar experiences where everyone kind of tries to keep it under the wraps, treat all of these tools as, some sort of advantage over the competition. It just doesn't work that way. It's never worked that way,
Right.
and you're not going to be able to advance the industry as a whole if you look at software this way. I mean, just locking things
Yeah.
away in boxes and keeping it proprietary. That's how big
Right.
software companies worked for years, and that's how innovation actually slows down.
Yeah, I mean that's what's held a lot of the profession back, right? Is that kind of thinking, which is keep this to ourselves, and then if it's not available to anybody else, then they're just going to reinvent it and spin their wheels and start over. What's interesting to me about that is that companies back when AutoCAD came out, where they jumped on that. Now we want to bring standards to all of our drawings. We're going to define how the layers work and what they look like, and the different every company's got their own look, but what that software also did was completely level the playing field. Now anybody could draw a drawing that looked really good,
Well, but
even
did
if you're
it?
not an
But
architect.
the question, but did it? Because I understand that everyone jumped on AutoCAD, so everyone's using the same set of tools. But what you were just saying is, oh, everyone wanted to define their own standard. Everyone wanted to have, this pretty drawing that they wanted to create. This is my company standard. This is my set of line weights that we want to use. This is our style. And that's what kind of always irks me with the architectural industry as a whole is this is still persisting. This is still happening. Like in Revit, every
Mm-hmm.
company had their own styles. Every company has their own set of the material libraries, the content libraries. Everyone builds and rebuilds the same thing over and over again. And this is
Right.
completely opposite of what happens with, let me give you an example. Automotive industry. I don't know if it's just a European Union standard or is it Germany in specific, but one of my friends works as a programmer for the one of the automotive companies in Germany, right? And what he tells me is that when they write code for cars, for software in cars, there is a industry-wide standard. So software has to follow those standards, and every car has a
Mm-hmm.
software written to that standard.
Okay.
So you basically have that's a playing field. That means that people that work on software at any company at any point in time can transition to a different company, pick up without any,
Mm-hmm.
company specific learning curve doesn't exist. It's basically industry standard. They can just go there, pick up, and start working right away. And the industry
Yeah.
moves. I mean, there is a little bit of a, like obviously if you have to follow some standard to a T, and we're talking about cars, so the regulations are in place for safety reasons and whatnot. But this is how the architectural industry ought to be. At the end of the day, this would have made it so much easier for people that work at the city, reviewing the drawings, reviewing the codes. If everything was standardized to some level, at the basic level, I'm not saying standardize the design. I'm saying standardize the delivery and the mechanics of it, and that would have been so
Yeah.
much easier for everyone to review, approve the whole thing.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that AutoCAD did that for firms because you're right. Like it's everybody's got their own standards and that there is a learning curve every different place you go because they do it differently. But the tool is the same, right? And it works the same way. And if I can draw a straight line on this layer and this weight, then I don't even have to have the skill of a senior architect anymore, right?
Yeah.
It's not about how you hold the pencil anymore. It's democratized beyond at the tool level, which I think is really kind of what nobody saw coming at that time. It's like, so now you have an architecture firm competing with a drafting service. And it's because architects aren't good at telling people what their value is, then it's all the same. It's just a set of plans, right? I can get a set of plans. Where's the cheapest set of plans? That's what I want. So now if we start to think about how like you're in the tool building business, right? And you are talking about like bringing, I don't know, are you guys thinking about it from that standpoint of bringing a standardized way to look at data? We're talking about data visualization, we're talking about data capture, we're talking about data analytics on specifically with BIM beats, for instance, but it's like, are you guys thinking of it in that way, or are you thinking of it just as like a business or a service that you offer to
No,
architects?
this was part of the conversations and reasoning why we ended up building Bimbies the way we built Bimbies. And the reason we picked actually something that is a bit of an industry standard or could be an industry standard. The reason we put this thing on and this is probably something that I learned over the years, reinventing the wheel while I was working in my previous company. But the reason we picked Elastic Stack and the technology that come with it is to actually stop reinventing the technologies of gathering the data, storing the data, and visualizing the data. There has been a number of different applications that do this that have been developed before that do this very, very well. You can name a few, like for
Mm-hmm.
visualization, it's not just what we've been using, which is Kibana, but Power BI, Tableau. If you can not reinvent the wheel on this one, then that's the ultimate goal. And the reason you want to do that is because when you put something on a common platform, and by common platform I mean if we're gonna use Power BI, for example, as the visualization engine for any of this data analytics, then you can all of a sudden share it with anyone else who's using the same common platform. The issue becomes that if the data is not in the same format or schema, then that's when you get in trouble. But obviously, if everyone's on the BIM beats, then everyone has the same schema, then everyone can reuse the same visualizations. And we want to obviously publish up all of our visualizations and analytics that we're doing in some sort of free and accessible marketplace. And if companies, because we do know that any company that will eventually consider getting on this and sharing any of the resources or things that they built, they probably want to charge money. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why we call it, I mentioned marketplace, not like a free community place or so. Because, like just, you can probably you probably did speak to Ian and Hypar. There's a reason why they're building
Mm-hmm.
Hypar the way they're building is for other people to be able to share their definitions of the buildings or parts of
Right.
the building. So it's basically designed as a service kind of idea.
Mm-hmm.
So we would have, data visualization as a service kind of thing. So if you think
Mm-hmm.
of a marketplace where you can, get a dashboard for your data and you just hook into it and it just works, that's kind of where we heading with this. So yeah, standardization is or has been a thing that I've been talking about with Adam when we were putting this thing together.
So it sounds like, a lot of the decisions that you guys have made are around not only standardization, but ability to scale that, right? Because if you really want it to be a platform that lots and lots of people use, then it's got to be able to handle lots and lots of queries and data, right? Lots of storage
Yeah,
space.
yeah, and that's part of the reason why another reason scalability would be why we chose this platform as opposed to other platforms or building our own platform, which everyone likes to do these days. Um, and this is probably a bit of that open source community and thing that I learned working working within the programming, working with tools and building tools is that there's other people's inventions, other people's tools that they've built that you want to just reuse. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel over and over again. And
Right.
this is one of those things the architectural industry as a whole and just in general just lacks that attitude towards their tools. Every project is starting from scratch. Every design is a new design,
Yep.
as if there was a 1,000 different ways of designing the bathroom to be compliant with the ADA. There isn't, and if and you can open the graphic standards book and just pick one of the ones that's already there. Why do we have people at large offices redesigning those things over and over again? So
Mm-hmm.
this is literally the thinking behind open source community. As a programmer, that's how you kind of get to work. So that's what kind of differentiates. I don't know if that's why we on the dark side, but that's what differentiates people that can't think it
Yeah.
that way. It's like it's okay. It's okay to use other people's work. It's okay to build on top of other people's work. It doesn't make you less of an architect. If you borrow somebody else's bathroom layout, you're still perfectly capable architect. Focus on the things that do make a difference, and that's you take as much as
Right.
you can to build a platform, and then you build on top of that your things. You advance the industry this way, not by reinventing the wheel over and over again.
Going back to what we were talking about before the show really started was, why, and I think what you just said kind of plays into this is why even do this? Why even look at the data and why visualize it? Why collect it? Like, what are we trying to understand about ourselves so that we can build upon that and do something interesting or important with it? Like, what's the point of doing all that? And why have you guys gone this route with BIM Beats?
Well, everyone's probably going to have a different reason why they want to do certain things the way they want to do, but I have a feeling that architectural industries, architectural companies as a whole, the reason why they're looking at the data and the reason why they trying to data analytics on top of Revit models, for example, is to be able to, and this goes back to the comment that you've made before, which is we don't know how to value ourselves, and there hasn't been a whole lot. I don't know if I might be off on this, but over the years, there hasn't been a whole lot of value generation within the architectural industry. Like our value to the industry as a whole was always like we provide design services, and that's what we charge. And companies usually charge hourly rates or of some sort. And it's a tough business model to live by, and it's a really easy one to die by, especially during times like this when
Mm-hmm.
there's an economic downturn. So some of the companies, you can make an argument they're looking at things from 2 points of view. How do we get more efficient, better at the things that we do? So trying to improve the process
Mm-hmm.
that we have. And this is probably a lesser reason to be doing this. You're just basically trying to get better at what you already do. Squeeze out a few extra dollars. So being able to analyze your processes, being able to see where the deficiencies exist, when the process can improve. You can probably squeeze that a little bit more. And two is a much, in my opinion, would be a much better reason to be looking at this, is to actually see opportunities or take back some of the things that we gave up as architectural companies. Some of the things that companies no longer want to do. As an example for it, I think companies no longer want to get into like part of the process that deals with validating the data, like being able to hand over a model and stand by that model. Most of the time, architects have some sort of language written into their contracts that the models are as is. They don't contain all the information that they're supposed to contain. Use it on your own volition. If you have some sort of tools, analytics built on top of the models, on top of the work that you're doing, then you can, with some certain degree of certainty, say that this work has been done. It does exist in our models. Our models are to a certain standard. The information they're supposed to be contained in them does exist. Or you can even take on new extra work that you haven't been doing, like architectural companies outsource things like code reviews. If you can review your models using some sort of automation tools, tools that exist out there, like a popular one is, what's it called? CodeUp? Upcodes, yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If you can start doing these things in-house on your own, then all of a sudden you're not outsourcing it, so you take on bigger chunks of the project. And we used to, as an architects historically, we used to be the designers, the builders. We used to do the whole thing. And only, I don't know if it's the progress of time, we started to be scared of owning that responsibility. Being able to deliver the whole spectrum of services. We no longer do that. So if you're doing some sort of data analytics on top of your tools and processes, and it allows you to take on a little bit more responsibility in those terms, then yeah, that's probably a better reason to do that than try to squeeze out the last dollar out of the people that work for you.
Yeah, one of the big reasons that we're doing it is because you hit it right on the head. It's like, know thyself, right? Know what the hell's going on under the hood so that you can make decisions to make it better. Because if you're just going through the motions and everybody's applying a different set of standards and you can never actually understand what is being applied or done in the models by lots and lots of different people over different offices and different groups, then how are you ever going to get better or decide the way that you want to do it so that multiple people can jump in and out of projects and pick up where somebody else left off? That's really hard if you don't have kind of some of these tools in place so that you can understand the current landscape and then you can come up with a plan on how to get to the next place. And so for us, it's really about looking for opportunities to invest in our people, to train them where we need it the most. Because I think a lot of other firms out there, a lot of firms in general, don't look at training as an investment in their people or their projects. And they do expect it to happen on nights and weekends, kind of like what you were talking about when you were learning visual programming, right? It's just like, that's just, people do that, right? We hope. And honestly, like, we want our people to get that at the office so that it's value added to their work and their profession and their career, and that will directly impact projects.
You also want to know about people spending their nights and weekends in the office for a couple of different reasons. A, if you are running the company and you basically hire a bunch of salaried people, then their timesheets usually say 40 hours a week, and that's about it. You don't really get much more information from that. So the financial,
it's pretty fictional.
People, yeah, it's pretty fictional. Like I used to, for the few years that I worked at HOK or Grimshaw, if you're getting the same amount of money paid every week, it doesn't really matter whether you worked 80 hours and you submit that on your timesheet or not. No one really cares, and no one really wants to remember to do their timesheets properly. So the thing that I'm trying to get at is, even though we would, so people when they bid, like you were saying, like we always constantly undervalue ourselves as an industry, as So when you're bidding out for projects and you're looking back at the historical data, they're usually looking at the financial data, and
which is fictional.
So you're kind of making decisions based on fictional data. And that kind of perpetuates the issue that people have, which is now you've signed up for a project that's going to take X amount of time, and this is X amount of money that we're going to make off of it. and people have to work, nights and weekends, and
Right.
you want to know. And if you're not measuring how much work people are actually doing and when that work is happening, then you're not going to be able to identify people that are maybe burning out. They might be
Yeah.
working on weekends. Maybe if they're working on weekends and there isn't really a project that they're chugging on, maybe that's the person that's learning some programming. You kind of want to know about them too. You want to be able to intercept them before they leave the company, because that is usually the next logical step. There's probably a connection between people spending a bunch of time on nights and weekends learning a new skill and then leaving the company.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because like I've been there, I've done that. It's frustrating. You kind of you really do want to get ahead of these people, and people in general are usually non-confrontational. Like I might be an exception in that spectrum, is because I don't have a problem going up to my manager and be like, I want a raise or something. Most of the people don't. They will gladly go along and they will take the raises and the improvements in working conditions that they get voluntarily from the employers.
Yeah.
But that's probably not the right way to go, because people do get frustrated, and even though they don't say anything, they do get frustrated. And
Yeah.
you want to get ahead of them. You want to be able to see what they're actually doing, what interests them, what they're pursuing in their free time, if such is in the office, to get ahead of them, to offer them better learning opportunities. And if you can do that, then you're going to be able to retain them. Because there
Yeah.
is a culture of people just quitting after 2 years, or like
Right.
this is, I probably can't fight that, because there's something to it that's generational. It used to be that people worked at a single company for their whole life. That's no longer a thing to do. People want to get
Right.
different experiences, learn different things. And like I was saying, this is pretty much the only way to get a nice kick in the butt in terms of getting a better salary. So people do quit for that reason a lot.
For
So
sure.
I've lost a few colleagues that I was very fond of due to these
Yeah.
circumstances. So.
Yeah, there's a different set of values out there. I think, like you said, it's a different. You want to get different experiences that maybe a firm that you're at doesn't offer, and you're ready to put those on your resume. It could be a project, right? It could be like you're curating your own portfolio of projects that you've worked on, and the more exciting project is down the street, right? So that definitely happens. And I think, giving people reasons to stay, like you're saying, getting out ahead of that and finding out what they're interested in is kind of a lost art in business in general. And totally generalizing here, but like people don't really take the time to get to know their people very well. And when you don't know your people, you don't know what they're interested in. And they are all, quote unquote, the same. And so you don't find out like what's driving Konrad and what's driving Evan to want to take their career to the next level. It's more like don't ask, don't tell, right? It's
Yeah.
like, it's very
If
much.
no one's literally complaining, then everything must be fine. If no
Right.
one's raising their hand and making hell of a work environment, then everything's fine. A few weeks ago, for the what was your desk university,
Right.
there was a conversation between Ian, Mustafa, and I, and
Yep.
we had a little disagreement, and me being me, which is always disagreeing with, always arguing the opposite point. I was saying that maybe it's not such a hot thing to be working from home. And this is to your point, like how do you get to know the other person?
Yeah.
There's such a huge loss of not having that face-to-face interaction, when not having those offhand conversations about your family, the hobby project, and things that you've done, or things that you've been through as a person. Like you don't get to know, like people don't say these things on over the internet. Like no
Right.
no one, like you don't get, like you find out about these things by interacting with people. Probably not the best place, but like late nights and weekends when you do work, and that's when like friendships get forged, so to speak.
Right.
But that's how you get to know people, and that's what kind of makes coming to work fun and meaningful.
It's really hard doing that remote. And that's one of my biggest fears, especially with like the emerging professional crowd, is who do suck up so much knowledge through osmosis of just being around and overhearing stuff. And now there's nothing to overhear except for, outside sources like podcasts and YouTube and all this stuff. It's not necessarily how their coworkers would do it, or how they would handle a difficult client, or how they would handle a contract, or this is all architectural stuff, and it goes way beyond that. It goes into the personal stuff. And that's just not going to happen, right? If you're not in the office without your headphones in, then that gets a lot harder. So it was already really difficult. It was difficult because people didn't ask, they're busy, they didn't have time, and you had your headphones in, right? And now you're not even in the same room. So how much harder did it just get? It got way harder.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So that's why that's one of the things that I miss about being able to go to the office and working from home is, I've been doing this for like almost 2 years now, working from home mostly. So it gets to be annoying, especially when you try to do what I do, which is write software. When you do kind of the headphones thing, it serves double purpose. You kind of I will put headphones on and literally not even listen to anything.
Yeah,
not even have my because they do serve a purpose of it's almost like don't bother me.
It's a visual
sign
cue.
on my
Yeah,
back.
totally.
The point was really that just trying to get into what people call flow, and especially when you're programming, I don't know, it's a bit of a weird thing, but you do have to keep in mind you kind of juggle in your memory a couple of different variables at any point in time, and a little plan of what you typing out for the next few lines of code that you type in. So any interaction that I have, and my wife will come over and ask me a question, just like a random question, and I just lose all that.
It'll be gone. Yeah, totally.
It's gone for the next 15-20 minutes before I kind of figure out what I was doing again. So
right.
So headphones do help with that sometimes. And then the office, I liked it and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed going to work. There's something about just changes your state of mind, in my opinion, of being home. For me has always been about I'm home. I can kind of relax.
Right.
I don't want to work. This kind of changes I don't even have to like consciously change my mood of how I feel about what I'm doing. I'm at home. I'm supposed to just but when I'm at work, it's like it's work. Like I know I have to do work now, and my whole mindset just changes. So I definitely do miss that.
Yeah, for me, that drive was the transition point, right? That could happen where you could switch from one mode to the other. And now there's like 10 feet, right? And where that same switch needs to happen instead of 20 minutes. And that is so hard. That has definitely been the hardest part for me, is just like switching modes.
Well, but so I don't miss the drive. That's for sure. Like I'm not gonna tell you how much I appreciate the extra an hour or two every day you don't miss by driving out to work. So it's it's a give and take. You lose some, you get some with this work from home thing.
Yep.
I do miss driving, but that's for a whole complete set of different reasons. In New York, I had to sell my car moving out to New York, so not having a car for 6 years when I was in New York, I do like to drive now for some reason, even though Chicago traffic is horrible, but I do enjoy it nowadays.
I love a road trip. Like I really found myself longing for a road trip, just because I don't mind long road trips. I feel like you settle in, you get all the scenery, and to me, that's huge, right? That feeds me visually, like and emotionally, like it's a complete removal from the normal, and that's a big necessity in my life to be able to have that.
I can do long road trips, not in US. The landscape in US is like freaking cornfields everywhere. It's like you're driving through a cornfield for like 10 hours.
You come to California. We have mountains.
Maybe in California there's better. So I used to when I was in college, I used to drive over the summer just to pay for school. I used to drive a truck, like long haul trucking. So I've been around the States a little bit. On the road, so to speak. It was the worst experience ever. If there's a job I won't recommend to anyone,
long, straight, flat roads. Yeah, no thanks.
Don't drive for 16 hours a day. It's just bad, and totally unhealthy too. I used to drink a lot of Red Bulls and smoke a lot of cigarettes. Man. So wow. Don't recommend that at all. I don't know, maybe someplace else the landscape gets a little better. Something about the roads here.
The biggest thing about the drive that I miss, and it wasn't even a long drive, like I said, it was like 20 minutes, maybe less. It's just the chance to listen to something. And like I can't really listen to things while I work. I maybe will turn music on, but I'm usually on a call anyway, so I can't. So I guess that leads me into like what do you listen to? What are you reading? What influences you? Tell us what gets Conrad ticking.
In terms of listening, there's I can't really put my headphones on nowadays because the baby's at home. So anytime baby starts crying, I gotta be ready. So I don't put headphones on anymore. So listening has been a little restricted. When I go out for like bike rides or anything like that, so when I do have that hour or two of alone time and I put my headphones on, I find myself listening to one of two things. A, it's either podcasts, or B, it's Polish music, Polish hip hop. So me being a basketball fan, something about hip hop and basketball, they kind of interconnected, intertwined. Those two things come together. So growing up playing basketball a lot, I also kind of bought into the hip hop culture. So I listen a lot of Polish hip hop. The reason I listen to Polish hip hop, this is a weird thing. So being an immigrant in America, you kind of go through two phases of your life. The first phase is learning how to speak English,
Uh-huh.
and the second phase is learning not to forget how to speak your own language. Which for me, it's Polish. So when I first got here for the first, like, I don't know, 10 years maybe, I would read books in English exclusively just because I wanted to pick up the language, the vocabulary, just learn as much as I could of it. And then I got to a point where I realized that my Polish vocabulary is dropping off significantly. And you find out because your family will tell you. My family in Poland, anytime we get on the phone or I visit, they will tell you that, like you're throwing in some English words in here. That's not cool.
You're disconnecting.
It's like, yeah, you forgot how to speak Polish.
Wow.
So that's at that point I started to pick out more and more Polish books. So I would read the same things, but like the same, like the topics that I'm interested in, I'll probably pick up the same books, but just in Polish, not to lose that vocabulary. So that's why I listen to Polish music when I write nowadays. And when it comes to podcasts, I've been listening to. I got into politics. I don't know if is that something that you get into when you get older?
Yes, totally.
So a friend of mine when I was at Grimshaw.
By the way, I'm just totally offended that you asked me that question. But yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry about that. I don't know. I was never interested in that. And that's probably another one of the things that kids should get into a little bit sooner. So I never voted until 4 years ago, the last election
Mhm.
cycle, and I was completely disappointed. But anyways, the only reason I did go out and vote was because a friend of mine kept getting me into talking about politics when I was at
Mhm.
Grimshaw, and I really loved talking to him. But I couldn't, I couldn't really have an informed conversation about this without me being interested. So I started getting into listening to podcasts. Picked up a few occasional, articles in magazines or whatnot, and I started kind of getting more and more into it. And I believe that I shouldn't be speaking out if I'm not voting. So like I shouldn't be talking about politics with anyone. I'm not allowed to have an opinion. That's kind of what I like. I rule for myself. If you're not voting, then don't go
Yeah,
talking to me about politics, right? So that's
right.
why for the first time in my life, I went out and I voted.
That's awesome.
So,
So, okay, so give us a recommendation for a podcast and for a Polish hip hop artist.
oh my goodness, I listened to the old. So here's the thing. I'm always kind of putting myself back in time when I listen to Polish hip hop. So I always listen to old school things that I used to listen when I was back in Poland. I don't know why I keep doing that
Well,
because
nostalgia. Yeah.
I just re-listen the old things. I never actually pick up new things. And Spotify is such a weird thing. It's because they don't. I don't know. They need to probably rework this. I haven't.
Maybe they can hire you as a consultant here.
There should be a checkbox in there somewhere that says like throw some new stuff in here randomly every now and then
Right.
into my playlist because I just got a playlist that I listen to and it's the same thing over and over. They should totally toss something in. I don't know if anyone's gonna know any of that, but
Well, hey, okay, so is your playlist, can you make it public? Can you share the link to your
I don't know.
playlist?
I'm just reusing
Okay.
someone else's playlist, so it's already public.
All
We
right.
can totally share it on the link, but yeah, we can.
Yeah. Let's do that. I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, the artist name that like most recently I've been listening to a little bit more than usual is Hada. Anyone who knows Polish hip hop would know him. So,
Cool. Awesome.
and podcasts, it's a little bit of a mixed bag of things. I'll listen to all sorts of different things. I listen to Joe Rogan. I don't
Hmm.
know the Joe Rogan Experience. The reason I've listened to Joe Rogan is because I used to be into UFC, and Joe Rogan
Okay.
was the he used to do interviews with the fighters after the fight, and I love the guy. And there's something about him. He's also a stand-up comedian, so I listen to his stand-up comedy shows too. So he's pretty cool. He's pretty chill, and he got Elon Musk to smoke dope on the
Yeah.
podcast. So
That was a good episode. That was a very good episode.
I I can't listen to Elon Musk. There's something about him. It's just hard to listen to him. He's well, it's not nothing bad to say about the person, but it's just like hard to listen to the very slow, meticulous way of how he speaks.
Right.
I just like fall
It's
asleep.
different.
But he was a little bit better after he got a few hits of whatever he was smoking there. So yeah, it's Joe Rogan, and then if I don't have a TV at home, that's another thing that not a lot of people probably know about me. I haven't had a TV for like 7 or 8 years now, so I don't watch TV. So the news is not a thing. It's not like I always felt like it was a big waste of time. And in my home, when I was growing up, my parents always had that TV thing on with the news.
Hmm.
I just kind of got tired of this, and I don't know. We just don't have TV.
Yeah.
With the baby around, we kind of made a decision that we don't want to get her indoctrinated with the TV, iPads, and all that stuff
Yeah,
as
good
long as we
call.
can. So it's also a good thing in that. But so to get my news, I do have to kind of go outside of the standard TV route, and I usually listen to something called Visual Politics.
Hmm.
It's a series of it's not one channel on YouTube. It's actually a couple of different channels and a couple of different people doing kind of commentary on economics, on politics, on socioeconomical situations all over the world. So kind of like news and politics mixed together, and they break it down nicely. The guy that I usually listen to, my favorite channel within that is Simon Whistler's. So if anyone's interested in that, visual politics, Simon Whistler, look him up.
I will find it and put it in the show notes. That's cool recommendation. I'm gonna have to check that out. Couple more questions for you here, just to kind of wrap things up. So, speaking about like these things that you're listening to, the stuff that you're doing, you're out riding your bike. Like, what do you do for help yourself perform better? Is it getting away? Is it disconnecting? Is there something that you do personally, like a personal hack? Analog, digital, doesn't matter.
Basketball. This has been one thing, the one constant theme throughout my life that I've kind of all forms of basketball. Like I used to play computer games a lot, and I would play basketball, like basketball computer games. Then I stopped playing computer games altogether, but I would just religiously read blog posts. And currently, I used to have a team back in New York, all Polish basketball team. So just I don't know, there was a bit of a requirement they had to be Polish. We were not very
Yeah.
good because Polish people are not very good at basketball, but we did try. So there's something about basketball that gets me going because it's just I don't know the competitiveness within it. I get to blow off the steam. Like
Yeah.
getting on the bike is one thing, but it just doesn't do it for me. Like in basketball, I'm allowed to be mean. I'm allowed to throw an elbow, and it's okay. It's within the game. So I don't have time. I used to go boxing. I guess there's a bit of a mean streak within me that I have to get rid of. So that's why. So basketball. I used to do kickboxing back in college, but yeah, I have to kind of blow off the steam every now and then.
It sounds like there's a passion there too, though, right? It's not just about blowing off steam.
Oh no, basketball's been it's been a thing since I was a little kid. So it was fun, and it kind of got me through a lot of. I totally recommend it to kids growing up. Learning about playing team sports, and yeah, it totally got me in touch with the right people, with the right crowd, and kept me out of trouble for most of my life. So yeah, I totally recommend
Yeah,
it.
that's cool. I go mountain bike riding, which is a very different from like just cycling down streets and stuff, because I feel like I've got to be there or else I'm gonna like fall off something and hurt myself. So for me, it's like a form of it's almost meditative in that way where you just have to be present, right? Because if you're not, something's going to happen. And I would, basketball is not too different from that. You've got to be in the game, like you talked about, being in the zone when you're coding. Like you've got to get in that flow state, right? I mean, that's this kind of athletic output is a lot like that, depending on what you want to try to get out of it as a person. So some people that is going to be running, right? But other people, you've got to be like actively, strategizing, and like basketball is very much like that. There's a huge team strategy going on And it does rely on different individual talents, but at the same time, you've got to work together as a unit. So there's got to be like a flow state that everybody kind of achieves at the same time.
Yeah, and it's very, very hard, especially if you don't play with the same people on a regular basis. Everyone has the weird thing about basketball is, as individuals, everyone has their favorite things that they like to do, the favorite spot that they like to shoot from, the favorite way of catching the ball. And, so if you're running, if you're a point guard, I'm a tall guy, so I'm probably more susceptible to that because someone has to actually throw me the ball every now and then for me to be in position to score. But there's, like everyone has their own, there's a lot of individualism within the sport, and then the whole thing has to function as a unit. Like when we had a basketball team back in New York, I was pretty much probably like the suckiest guy on the team, and there's nothing wrong with that. I would get like 1 or 2 shots every game, and I was perfectly happy with that. And I was perfectly happy just running around and setting screens and getting the rebounds and playing defense. That was my contribution to the team. And and it was it. I loved it. And seeing other people being able to score, it's like it's no different than me putting out a video tutorial or something, and seeing other people put it to good use at other companies and whatnot. And I'm excited about these things.
Yeah, spoiler alert, there's always a suckiest person on a team, right? Like the only way to get better is by doing.
Well, there was the team had 10 people, so I was the suckiest person on the starting 5. So not the suckiest person on the team. I will take
top tier suckiest.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I think we've learned a lot about you today. You truck driver, no TV, basketball, Polish hip hop, so many things that nobody knew. This is awesome. I hope that we can continue this conversation sometime, and I hope that you come back and we can do it again.
Yes, that would be awesome. If you just let me know, I'll be happy to do it again.
Awesome. So where can everybody find out more about you guys and what you're doing? Where can they follow along with what you're doing online?
Well, we do have a website. If you're asking about BedMonkeys, BimBeats, so bedmonkeys.net, bimbeats.com. I do have a personal blog at archie-lab.net. People usually say it archilab.net, whatever.
Yep.
I always thought it was an architectural lab, so Archilab.
So on my other podcast, Archispeak, when people say Archispeak, it drives me crazy.
It drives me nuts. But so it's archilab.net. That's where I keep the blog, so people can find me there. And Twitter, obviously. I'm not as active as I used to, but life moves on. The little one takes up a lot of my time, so apologies to all those people that have been following me on Twitter and my blog that I've been kind of slow with that, but
it's shifting priorities, man. It's cool. No need to apologize for that, for sure. Well, thanks so much for spending time with us today. It's been great talking to you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for hanging out with us today. This show is part of the Gable Media Podcast Network. You can see all the shows at gablemedia.com. That's GABLMEDIA.com. You can help support what I'm doing here by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts to help get the word out, and of course, share it with your friends. I'd love to hear from you, so leave a comment on the website at trxl.co/podcast, where you can find every episode. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube. Just search for eTroxel. Talk to you soon.